We in the studio. We in the studio. With Rob in the studio. In the studio. In the studio. Catch a vibe in the studio. In the studio. We in the studio. With Rob in the studio. In the studio. We in the studio. Yeah, I'm in the studio with Rob. I need to make the heat flicker. Izzle on it, only thing can make a Rico beat sicker. So listen and get your wisdom. Gemstones on your head. Good with the OG like Flintstones, good in bed. Been living a long time and he got something to say. Depending on how you feeling, dog, you might got something to pray. This type of influence that you ain't gotta filter through your liver. We in the studio with Rob. Come let the heat rock simmer.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of In the Studio with Rob. In case you don't know who I am, but I hope you do by now, I am Rob. I am in here once again with my right hand, Izzle.
Yeah.
What's going on, young fella?
Feeling good, feeling great, big fella. How you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing lovely, doing just lovely. Life is good.
Word, always good to hear.
Hey, people, I always talk about being a man of the people.
You do?
And so what I'm going to do today is talk about something that the people said. The people asked me to talk about. The people wanted me to talk a little bit about love languages versus relationship expectation. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about the difference in the two. But I want you to understand that sometimes the relationship expectations can have a little touch of the love language into it. But it doesn't mean they're exclusive. So I want you to be able to think a little bit broader in how you look at the two and not just lump it all together, because then you can get yourself in a little trouble in your relationship because one person is expecting something, and another person is needing something. And your need of the way you need to be loved versus what you expect in a relationship aren't necessarily the same thing. So, if any of you read, and which I hope all of you do of some kind, but if you get a book or there's a book on love languages, and I can't think of the guy's name. I think his name's something Gary, whatever. But anyway, you can look it up. There's a book on love languages.
That's crazy. I'm going to find his name while you speak.
Yeah, find the dude's name. We got a book on love languages. And so, actually, me and my wife read the book together. And we talked about our love languages and trying to understand love languages. And basically, he has 5 love languages that he talks to. And it's interesting when you do read the book and you kind of think through it, even take the little quiz, you come up with what your love language is. Well, my love language, it's funny because I think what my love language is and what my wife thought it was 2 different things. My wife is a person who, help people, and that's not my love language. It's like, I cook or I do this and I do that. I don't really care because I know how to cook, So she had to understand, and, we both had to understand, because maybe I didn't even know that was my love language. But, my love language is actually, physical touch and words of affirmation. So those are, two of my 2 leading ones. Again, everybody has areas where they touch on individual, all of them in some way or another, because we all have, you're much broader than just 1 or 2. So I touch on all of them, but my top 2 was physical touch and words of affirmation.
And by the way, his name is Gary Chapman, and that book is The 5 Love Languages: How to Express Heartfelt Commitment to Your Mate. And I think I saw that book floating around the house when I was younger.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's been around, so we definitely have it. So if you haven't read it and you're in a relationship, read the book and actually do it together with your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your husband or your wife. Do it together. You'll get more out of it. So those 5 love languages are acts of service, words of affirmation, quality time, physical touch, and receiving gifts. Luckily for me, my wife is not a receiving gifts type of person, which works out. I mean, it don't cost as much. But again, so we had to kind of talk to her and kind of figure out, what is it that you need? What do you want? She actually likes, like if I wash the clothes or I do, she's a, acts of service type of person. She likes that kind of thing. So that's easy. I could do that. But I didn't know that. Again, I think early on in our relationship, I would buy you something, it's like, oh, I'll get her this. And then you wonder why she don't use it, because it wasn't that deep for her. So understanding your different love languages are important, and understanding what your love language is versus what your partner's love language is, and knowing how to give them what they need, not what you want to give them. And that's one of the things that we all make the mistake of, is that we love people the way we want to be loved versus the way they need to be loved. And I think if you read this book, it'll help you a little bit to understand the difference. And then you can work toward loving your partner the way he or she needs to be loved. So, and before we get off of that, I just want to, Israel, you know what your love language is?
Yes. I think so. I did figure this out some time ago, but my love language, at least my tops are, it's physical touch.
That's my son.
And I believe acts of service.
Acts of service, like people doing stuff for you.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
cool.
Yes.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. So again, everybody has a piece of all of them. But again, your top may be whatever, like his acts of service and physical touch. Mine was words of affirmation, physical touch. So, but again, all of us encompass a little bit of all of them. So if you are in a relationship, find out what the love language is for your mate. And don't get that confused with the relationship expectations. It can cause a lot of problems. One of the things you have to understand with expectations are meant to be shared as well. Just like your love language, you need to know them and share them, but expectations need to be shared. A lot of people have expectations and never tell the other person what their expectation of them is in this relationship. And by doing that, you cause a rift. Like, well, he should know or she should know. Why she don't know that they need to do this, that, or the other? Because they're not you. They don't need that or don't require that from their side of their expectation. So it's on you that have expectation to talk through those expectations with the other person. I expect.
Wait, I just read it and I forgot that words of affirmation was one of them. And that's definitely one, because I like compliments, feed my ego, all that type of stuff. That's one of my things.
See, that's my son. That's
definitely one of my things.
See, that's what I said. That's what. I rubbed off on him. Some good, some bad. That was one. Those some good ones. Unfortunately, he took some of my bad traits too.
No, that's
I'm trying to break him out.
So
I'm trying to break him out of my bad traits.
I roll acts of service with within physical touch, because I like massages or back rubs, that type of thing.
Yeah.
So I consider that to be like an active service.
Well, I guess it technically is a part.
But
of it.
Definitely like words of affirmation and physical touch.
Yeah, like I said, again.
Tell me I look good and touch me.
Yeah. Everything good. How much you want? Yeah, good. So you have to know what you like, and you got to know what your love language is, and your partner needs to know what your love language is. So, and the same thing when we talk about expectation. I expect, and so let's say I'm in a relationship with someone, and I say, well, I expect them to cook every night when we get married. I expect them to cook for me every night. I expect them to keep the house clean. I expect them to whatever else. Okay. And the person I'm dating, she says, well, I expect you to go to work every day and make all the money and bring all the money in the house, pay all the bills, and also give me, whatever, so I can take care of myself, side, and I'll do those things. And so those are some expectations on a big scale. I say, okay, I can deal with that. If we cool. Those are some of those expectations. But let's look at it this way. Let's say I'm in a relationship and I bring the baggage from my childhood into that relationship, meaning I saw my mom cook for my dad every day. So I expect my wife to do the same thing. However, I never articulate that to her, and she grew up in a household where her father cooked every day and not her mother. Or maybe there wasn't a mom and dad, and so one person did whatever. Now that expectation that I have for her to do something is unrealistic if I never tell her about it. Or maybe she can't even cook. Did I have these conversations before we got into that? So I'm putting the expectation on her and being upset with her over something I never told her about, or never even gave her time to even figure out if that's something she wanted to be a part of. Because she may say, I get it, but I ain't cooking for nobody. I don't cook. I don't want to cook. I don't like to cook. So if that's my expectation, is that the woman that I'm with is going to cook for me, then I need to find a woman that is going to cook for me.
Or a woman that's willing to learn.
Or willing to learn. But if you tell me off the rip, hey, I ain't doing this and I ain't got no desire to do it, then maybe that's something where we have to say, okay, is this a deal breaker for me? Or maybe I can say, it's cool. It's something I saw, but it ain't really something I need because I know how to cook. That's the thing with me is like, I appreciate my wife cooking, and she, cooked for us, the kids was younger, she did all. But as we got older, I do a lot of the cooking myself now. Because I don't need her to cook. I need her to tell me she liked the way I cook. That makes me feel even better. Ooh, this tastes good. I love that. More than the fact that she cooked something for me. So the affirmation part comes out. But I would be putting a burden on her that either she can't do or she doesn't want to do. But even if that's the case, and I gotta tell her, I gotta be able to communicate those expectations. People have expectations in relationships on sex. You go into a relationship, and this is the problem that you have in most cases, is that when you meet someone and y'all first start, when y'all really start getting close and intimate, every time you see each other, you have sex. So now when you get into that that relationship is like, oh, now it's cooking. We either, we spend it every day together, or we get married, we spend all this kind. And your expectation is, I'm going to have sex with her every night. And she like, nah, bro, I'm good with once a week. Your expectation, her expectations don't match. You got to have those conversations. What's the expectation? And being real, because if she goes to work and I go to work, even if I wanted it every night, she probably ain't going to be willing, because she's going to be tired and I'm going to be tired some night. So we have to put some realistic expectations into our relationship that we communicate with each other. We can't just automatically assume that every night we're going to have sex. And as you get older, you want to do it even less because you're just old and tired. So it don't even work like that anymore. But you grow to that. But when you're young, people break up for so many reasons. And it's usually because your expectations are not being met. And most of the time they're not being met because they were never communicated financially. Who handles the money? Well, do we talk about that? We have expectations of how much money we need to save, how much money we need to spend on the child care, how much we want to spend on education for our kid, how much we want to spend on whatever. Do we talk about that? We have expectations for all of those things, but the problem is we never talk about it. So now you're getting into places where we're arguing over things that really aren't that deep, but we made it into a really something really deep, because we never communicated to each other what our expectations were. Your upbringing will affect your expectations. So if you grew up in a single household with your mother or your father, the things that you see in that home will affect how you deal with people or your relationships. Healthy relationships. I saw mom and dad, they dealt with we never saw them fight. We never saw them argue. We know they had disagreement, but they knew how to talk to each other. And then they knew how to talk to us as children. So now I have an expectation that I'm not yelling and arguing with people because I didn't grow up in that environment. But if I'm getting with someone who grew up in an environment where every time something went wrong, they yelling, and again, maybe it wasn't that deep for them in their household, but all the yelling and the cussing and different things was normal for that person. They're going to bring that in. So I need to explain that how I communicate And what I expect, I don't expect you to cuss at me. I'm not going to cuss at you. I don't expect you to cuss at me. I'm not going to yell at you. I don't expect you to yell at me. I don't communicate that way, and I expect someone that can reciprocate the healthy communication that I need. But I need to be able to explain that and understand that that's my expectation. That's not my love language. My love language is not you yelling at me, or even you not yelling at me is not my love language. It's an expectation that if you yell at me, if you yelling and cussing at me, I'm pretty sure you ain't giving me what my love language is. Because my love language, there's no quality time in that. Us getting together and arguing ain't quality time. There's no quality time. There's no words of affirmation if you're talking down to me when we argue. So we have to make sure that, those expectations are things that we are communicating with one another. Your expectation. Sometimes we talk about expectations. It's like in a broad scheme, it's like loyalty, respect, healthy communication. Those things are on a big scale. Those are some expectations that I would have. And hopefully everybody would have, those similar expectations. But even that, when you get into the relationship, now you have to drill down into what is it that I like? What is it that I need out of this relationship? How do I need this person to respond to me? How do I need this relationship to go? I expect. But did I tell them what I expected? We got people nowadays, people get married, never talk about children. But yet you get married, and then you find out that you want children and she don't, or vice versa. Why did you never talk about that expectation? That's a huge expectation. Or how many? I want 1, she want 12. Okay, and I'll be honest. I was one of those people that, if I would have been rich, I would have kept having kids. I got 6. But if I was rich, I would have kept having, because I love having little people in the house. That was so much fun when I was young. Now I'm older, I ain't got patience. So I'm glad. But that was an expectation that early on was like, I'm cool with a lot of kids. I have no problem with that because I love little people in the house laughing and playing, and my kids used to crawl on me like I was a jungle gym. I didn't mind. But if I marry someone who only wanted 1 child, I would have been frustrated, be like, this is boring to me, So, but why didn't you?
It was just Shauna.
Yeah, just Shauna. And if she a girl, so at some point she gonna stop talking to me in her teenage years. So how they go. But no, so it's kind of like, all right. So what am I gonna do? How do I communicate what I need before I get into that marriage stage? Before I get even deep into those relationships, we should be talking about how many kids we want. We should be talking about if both of us are going to work, or if one of us is going to work and the other one's going to stay home, take care of the house. We should talk about that. Those are conversations. I think we get so caught up into the, ooh, I love you and you make me feel good and the butterflies and all the other stuff, that we forget about the hard conversation. We need to have a conversation. How do we argue? That's a conversation we need to have, because your expectation of or what you think an argument is and what I think it is could be 2 different things. Just because I'm passionate in a conversation don't even mean I'm arguing. But it may be to you if you don't know me. So you have to understand, and we need to have those conversations so that we're not hurting each other, and we don't even intend to. It's like we all upset with each other, and it was like, this wasn't even something to be upset about. We just didn't communicate well. So again, our expectation. Do we expect when we do have kids, do they go to private school? Do they go to public school? Do they go to some other alternative school? What are we expecting from our kids' education? When they get older, are they going to stay with us when they 25, 30? Are they cool to still live with us? Are they going to be leaving the house? Because again, that could be an issue that comes in play. But those are conversations you all need to have no matter where you are. It's, again, understanding, because if you want them to leave at 21, then you should have prepared them to leave at 15. Meaning you're growing up men and women that can be on their own at that early stage. If you're saying you could be here till you're 30, then okay, but you need to prepare them to leave by the time they're 30. But if you're not preparing them to do anything, to be on their own, then they're going to be with you no matter what. And then you're going to be mad and frustrated. But we need to have those conversations. The expectation of children in our life and our relationship. How does that happen? What do we expect? Even expectation of for parents and their children. I expect my daughter to marry this type of guy. I expect my son to marry this type of girl. Okay, did you communicate any of that with your son or daughter? Are they on the same page? Because you might get your expectations. Your expectations probably won't get met. But you didn't even have a conversation. Not that you should be putting those kind of expectations on anybody else anyway. But I'm just saying that expectations in relationships are something that goes all over. But again, we are always looking at it's like the love, and then we confuse it with expectations. I love you. An act of service. Okay, if you love me and I have act of service, then I want you to do something for me. I don't, and when I say that, I don't mean I should be telling you, hey, can you do this? You already know that's my love language because we already talked about it. So you should be doing acts of service for me. So for me, my wife is acts of service. So I'm going to make sure I wash clothes sometimes. I'm going to make sure that I take the trash and clean up this area so that she don't have to. Because that's what that's what makes her know or makes her feel love. Okay, I'll do that. She don't have to ask me to do it. Words of affirmation, that's mine. So I shouldn't have to ask her to say something good to me to make me feel good. Or, babe, you don't never tell me you love me. You don't never tell me I look good in this. Or you don't never say this. I shouldn't have to say that because you already know that's my love language. So you should be doing it. So again, those quality time. If she needs quality time with me, if that's her love language, then she shouldn't have to say, hey, when we going out? I should be saying, hey, babe, let's go. We're going to go to the movie, or we're going to go out to dinner, or we're going to go and ride around, listen to some music in the car. Whatever the case, or we just going to sit here and, come lay on my chest and we just sit here and talk. Because that's the quality time that she needs. She shouldn't have to ask me for that. Love language. I will meet your love language once I know what it is. I should be meeting your love language. So, physical touch. And we all get caught up when the physical touch and they say, oh, it's all about sex. No, it ain't just sex. I ain't saying it ain't sex. I'm saying it ain't just sex. So get that clear. I don't want nobody confused. I ain't saying it's not sex. I'm saying this is just not just sex. But
I like rubbing my ear while we watching TV.
Yeah, why are you sitting all the way over there and I'm over here? Come closer to me. I want to feel you near me. I want to feel your touch. Now, it don't always. I think what happens a lot of times, especially because ladies are a little different in men, they assume you guys really assume too much about if you touch me, it's gonna turn to sex. Not always, because sometimes I don't want to have sex either. I just ain't gonna tell you that. I ain't never gonna turn you down, but at the same time, I don't need it all the time. But I do need to feel you. So I do need you to touch my hand or rub on my arm or something. I need that. It don't always have to turn to sex, but what happens is because we don't get any of the other, you're never touching me. All I'm getting is sex, and you relating it to gifts. Same thing. If I need gifts or you need gifts, why do I have to ask for a gift if you already know that? When you go to the store, bring me some chocolate back. That's a gift. Or I'll bring you, I saw this. And I picked this up for her because I know she likes this or she'll look good in that. It's a gift. It may not, it don't always have to be expensive, but it's a gift. Here, babe, I thought about you. I got this card because I was thinking about you. It's a gift. No one, once you know their love language, they shouldn't have to ask you to fulfill the love language. Now, the expectation, the problem with that is most of the time we don't know what your expectations are. Both sides, men and women, we don't communicate our expectations until something blows up in our face. And then it's like, yo, what happened? What is this? Why this didn't happen? It's like, yo, I expected you to pick it up. Or I expected you to be there. Or I expected you to do this. We got, with my kids, when they play in sports, it's like, okay, I expected you to be at the practice. Well, why you didn't go? Because I expected you to. Well, why? We need to talk about that. Now, me personally, I'm going to be at the practice, the games, everything. That's just me. But if you expected something from that or in that area, then you need to communicate that so we don't have a problem later. I need to communicate that, I'm going to all the practices. So that you know, if I ain't home by this time, I'm already going on my way to the gym, the field, or whatever the case may be. So you already know that. That's communication. That's the biggest part with expectation is the lack of communication.
As you speak, I'm realizing that something that shouldn't be lost on the people is that relationship expectations are seemingly negotiable for the most part. That's something that can be spoken about. It can be communicated and changed, compromised on, things like that. Love languages are pretty solidified. That's something you also need to communicate and should communicate, or you can learn on your own. But as the individual should learn their own, and sometimes need to learn on their own as well. But they aren't often negotiable. That's in you. That's you can't necessarily control how you feel loved, but you can decide this works for our relationship.
Yeah, and I think that's what it's it's really like a need versus a want.
Right.
I want this. I expect this because I want it this way, but I need this love. I need, in order to feel love, I need that. In order to to really get that satisfaction of love, I need this. That ain't changing. But I expect you to cook. Okay, that ain't a big deal. I mean, again, it's a big deal because we didn't talk about it. But in reality, we can work that out. Because if I can cook, but I expected you to cook, and you can't cook or you don't want to cook, then I can cook.
I need to eat.
I
expect you to cook, but I need to eat ultimately.
Because I used to,
whether you cook or not, I need to eat.
Because it's funny because even like my wife, she would cook, and like on a certain day, if I came home, it's like she cooked, but I really wanted McDonald's. So now I gotta eat your food because you cook. But in reality, I didn't really want this. You cook something, it's cool, I'm gonna eat it, but I don't really want that. Or you decided you didn't want to cook, and I come in and I was expecting it because you was doing it every day. And now I say, well, where's the food? And you're like, well, I don't have to cook. Hold up. You started that. I ain't never asked you to cook every day. Your expectation was to cook every day. Mine wasn't. My expectation was to eat every day. So if you would have told me before I got home that you weren't cooking, I could have brought pizza home for everybody. I could have brought McDonald's. I could have stopped and got something. Or if everybody else going to eat peanut butter and jam, I could have got me something to eat. So the expectation, sometimes we put expectations on ourselves to do things and get frustrated when it becomes overwhelming. And we never even talk to our mate because he or she didn't even need that expectation.
Comes back to talking again.
Everything comes back to communication. You got to communicate to each other. Talk. Don't be afraid to have a difficult conversation. Even because again, I think what happens is sometimes we feel like if I bring it up, she gonna get her feelings hurt, or she gonna get offended and not talk to me. Then she or he, whoever gets offended from that, need to grow up a little bit. Because us having a conversation and me telling you what I like or don't like, you should love that. You shouldn't be offended by that. If I tell you that I don't like the way you cook grits. I don't know if all y'all know what grits are, but if you don't, look it up. But anyway, if I say I don't like the way you cook grits, don't get offended. Either I can teach you how to make them the way I like them, Or you don't have to make them no more. I can make them myself. But that ain't nothing to be offended about. You should want to know. It's better to know what I like or don't like versus you doing something and you just doing it. And I'm like, yo, I don't keep doing this and I don't like it. But I ain't going to tell you because I'm afraid you're going to be offended. So because you're going to get your feelings hurt, I got to keep eating your nasty grits? No, it's not going to work that way. So we need to be able to have conversation where people don't get offended so easily. It ain't that deep, people. It's just a conversation. I'm sharing my heart with you. I'm sharing the things I like and dislike. You do the same with me. Tell me what I do wrong. If we making love and I'm doing something that you really don't like, but yet you keep doing it, it's like I'm assuming you like it. But as opposed to you saying, yo, don't do that. Do this. And now I really know what you like. It's like, oh, I'm cool with that. I ain't offended. As long as we don't stop, I'm good. I need to know how to please you. I need to know what makes you happy. You need to know what makes me happy. So we need to have those conversations. So stop getting offended when your husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend comes to you and tell you that, hey, they got an expectation or a need that they want, something that they want you to do differently. Let's have this conversation. So don't be afraid to have those conversations. Grow up. It's time to grow up. Everything is not a knock on how great you are as a person. You can still be a great person and do things wrong sometimes. Or do things not the way the other person likes. Because it ain't even about you doing it wrong in most cases. It's just that I don't like it that way. And so it's because it's between me and you, do what I like versus what somebody else might like. You still a great person. You still you don't change your goodness. But I have to meet your need. That's my job as your husband or your wife or, even in your girlfriend and boyfriend. Look, I'm trying to meet that need for you or that I'm trying to fulfill that expectation if I know what it is. So let's talk about that. So I hope you guys got something out of this. The people asked for this, so I hope the people, when you sit back after you listen to it a few times, you understand what I'm saying and you take something out of this. So it was fun. But again, remember,
I agree.
There's a difference. Relationship expectations can overlap into your love language a little bit, but one of the key things you have to remember, there's a need and there's a want. I need my love languages filled. Whatever my love language is, I need that. My expectations are some wants that I can negotiate. We can talk through. So again, just kind of talk. Don't be afraid to communicate. Talk to your spouse. Talk to your boyfriend, your girlfriend. Talk to them. Have those conversations, and then see how your relationship goes to another level. And don't take everything so personal or so. Don't be offended so easy. Put on your big boy drawers or your big girl panties and, have them conversations that you need to have so that your relationship can be stronger. All right. So with that said, this is another episode that we're wrapping up. I appreciate you, Izzo.
You did it.
And we're going to get back at you people again soon. Until later, we say peace and have a good one.
Tell a friend, like and subscribe. See you later. Bye.
Studio. We in the studio. We in the studio. We Rob in the studio. In the studio. In the studio. Catch a vibe in the studio. In the studio. We in the studio. We Rob in the studio. In the studio. We in the studio. Catch a vibe.
Yeah, I'm in the studio with Rob. I need to make the heat flicker. Izzle on the only thing can make a Rico beat sicker. So listen and get your wisdom. Gemstones on your head. Good with the OG like Flintstones. Good in bed. Been living a long time and he got something to say. Depending on how you feeling, dog, you might got something to pray. This type of influence, you ain't gotta filter through your liver. We in the studio with Rob. Gonna let the heat rock simmer.